the question pitch. Most people see themselves on what they do. You'll ask somebody, what do you do? I'm an insurance agent. What do you do? I sell cars. What do you do? And they identify themselves by what they do, not necessarily who they help, who they serve, anything like that. They identify themselves by what they do. Now, the problem with that is it requires you to connect the dots between what they're telling you and how it benefits me. So if they say, well, I'm an insurance agent, all right, I think most people know what an insurance agent is. But what does that insurance agent actually do for me? Well, that insurance agent could provide financial security in the event that something goes south. Family member passes away, disability, health insurance, auto insurance, all of the long-term care insurance. There's lots of things that are there. And I think I could reasonably easily connect the dot why this insurance agent and me, and maybe why long-term care makes sense, but most people don't do that. They only look at the surface. And because you're not giving them a question, there's no way they can connect it. Again, go to the very narcissistic issues, and most pitches have that very narcissistic underpinning. Because if you're an insurance agent and somebody asks you what you do, you could say you're an insurance agent, but now you're relying on their understanding of the value proposition of an insurance agent. Or you can ask them a question and say, I'll be happy to answer that. Can I ask you a question first? Now, what question would an insurance agent want to ask a person they're meeting for the first time? I don't know. They could say, well, let me ask you a question. Are you absolutely happy with where you are in your financial plan? On the security for your family? In the event that something happens to you, are the people you love going to be protected? Now, I think that that's a pretty good question to ask, because I think that if you ask most people, are you happy where you are in your financial world? I think 99 or whoever, first of all, the answer should be 100%. And the people who say, yes, I'm happy, are lying to you. Nobody's happy. Everybody wants more, right? We live in the world. We want better. At least I do. So if somebody asks that and I'm comfortable enough in my world, I'm going to say, hell no. Absolutely not. I want more. I want better. And then he introduces himself, and now I can make the connection much more deeply. You're a real estate agent, and you're at a networking event, and people say, well, what do you do? Well, you could say a real estate agent. Now, if the last experience they had with a real estate agent was terrible, what are they going to think about you? Who knows? If you had a bad experience with a drunk plumber, in your mind, all plumbers are drunks. Now, that may not be true, and it's most likely not true. But you base all of your experiences in how you carry forward. So if you've had bad experiences with salespeople, and I'm a salesperson, even though I had nothing to do with those before, I'm now going to bear the brunt of all your bad experiences in the past. So the idea of having the question pitch allows you to ask them the question. Right? So for example, if I'm a real estate agent, somebody says, what do you do? And I would come back and say, you know what, I'll be happy to answer. Let me ask you a question. If you could get 30% more for your house right now, then likely whatever the best assessment was, would you be interested in selling? I think that's a pretty direct question. And I think the average person, when faced with that question, is going to say, I don't know. I don't know. I never thought of it like that. Right? I always thought my house was worth $1 million, but you're telling me I could get $1.3 million? Maybe it makes sense to talk. Whereas if I would have said, well, I'm a real estate agent. Well, at that moment, you weren't in the market to buy or sell real estate. So therefore, you're going to say, oh, okay, that's great. Thank you. I didn't connect the dots between you and me, or the value that you bring to my narcissistic outlook. But if I said, I'll be happy to answer that question, but let me ask you a question. If you could get 30% more for your house right now, would you consider it? Now, they could say one of two things, right? They could say yes, which is good, because I'm a real estate agent, we should talk. Or they can say no. And that's okay. Not every person that we talk to. But you can see the underpinnings of this approach. The idea of creating the pitch is you've got to connect the dots between what you do and who they are, or what they are, or what they're ultimately going to need. And by sharing with them just your industry, it's very unlikely you're going to be able to get that. The question pitch is a great one to use.